All right. Everybody, welcome to CR's first YouTube Live. We're going to try and do these whenever something big is kind of coming up and really try and highlight some of our CR people. I'm Joseph Koss, the digital editor at CR. I also do stuff over at CRTV. And with me is Daniel Horowitz of CR, the senior editor, prolific writer. Today we're going to be talking about the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. That's kind of the big thing right now. So let's just dive right into it. I mean, we can kind of wait for people to jump on, but I think a lot of people are going to watch this after the fact, and we just kind of want to set the stage heading in tomorrow. Daniel, what are your three big takeaways from today?
Number one, this is the definition of torture.
Daniel a lot of times has so many windows open that he kind of bounces back. So he's back. Sorry about that.
I'm just telling you, this is something that needs to be aired at Guantanamo Bay. They talk about the definition of torture, and I think they brought it up today. I watched that thing all day, and I just hate myself for it. It is just, it is nauseating. Let's just set the stage here, Joe. To make it very clear, I'm not a party man. I mean, I spend more time bashing Republicans than Democrats. But the reality is, this judicial bed, both the structure of the judiciary turning into a super legislature and confirmation hearings becoming super nasty, Democrats created that bed, right? Nobody could accuse Republicans of doing it. They had Republican presidents for years, nominated liberals. Then when Democrats got in there and they nominated liberals, Republicans didn't say a word. They started it in 1987 with the Borking of Bork. They were nasty as anything. And then they were even nastier with Clarence Thomas. And yet Republicans didn't return the favor with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Breyer. It wasn't until later on that, finally, Republicans started opposing Democrat nominees under Obama. They didn't even vote no. And certainly with Kagan and Sotomayor, they weren't this nasty. So let's just say this is not endemic of both parties. Watching it, I said to myself, oh my gosh, could you imagine a Democrat committee chairman and a Republican interrupting the guy 4 seconds into his opening statement?
Okay, let's pause there for those the people that may not have watched a Supreme Court nominee go up before the Senate before. When you say the interruptions and whatnot, I mean, you have somebody that's leading this confirmation process, which is,
sure,
which sort of becomes the person who kind of leads you through the day. I mean, that's the person who becomes, I don't want to say the tour guide here, but it's the person who kind of runs how things go. And we saw today, like from the outset, that there were people, Code Pink and other people that were protesting. So it's not just that, but it's also how the questions go, running the time, sort of running the show, and they're the ones in charge of that. So what you're saying is that this is the first time that someone sort of abdicated the throne at the beginning of the process.
Yeah, so I think before we get into philosophy, I could talk about judicial philosophy forever.
This is more process.
The raw politics, this is very important. In any legislative body, the rules matter. You could have sharp debates, but you have to have clear delineation of who could talk and when they could talk. The committee chairman controls that completely, hence the gavel, hence the big attention we give towards who wins an election, who controls the committees. Now, it doesn't mean the committee chairman's a tyrant, and if you're in the minority, you can't speak. Indeed, every Democrat senator, in this case they're in the minority, gets 2 rounds of opening statements, and then they could ask questions of the nominee. They always had that ability to do that.
And historically, what have those opening statements been? Like, tell us and remind everybody who the chairman is here in sort of his history.
Yeah, so the chairman is Chuck Grassley. He literally opens up the hearing, and nobody, and this is true of any hearing, I don't care if it's over healthcare legislation, it's a hearing, it's a markup, whatever it is, he opens up the session. I've never in all my years seen a chairman interrupted 4 seconds into his opening statement, turning the microphones and cameras on.
Right. And so somebody like Chuck Grassley, what Daniel's trying to say, he dropped again, and he'll kind of go ahead, Daniel.
There's interruptions. It might occur halfway in where there's banter back and forth, but you never interrupt him. And here they said, "Mr. Chairman, I want to talk," and then they proceeded to talk without being recognized. You always have to be recognized by the presiding officer of the floor when you're on the floor, or of the committee, in this case the chairman, when you're in a committee. So this is what distinguishes us from a banana republic. You know, it's also funny, by the way, Democrats said we're a democracy. They kept saying that. No, we're not. We're a republic. And there's a lot of differences. One of them is that you have ordered liberty. And they had plenty of time to talk, but they literally ran the committee. And my concern was Grassley never shut them down. So I think that in itself just demonstrates both how Democrats act, and then how Republicans, their goodwill of being a benevolent chairman doesn't diffuse it. And it just emboldens to be even more vicious. And boy, were they vicious. I mean, they looked Kavanaugh in the eye and just were nasty as anything. And you know, my other big takeaway, my final major takeaway is, look, Democrats are going to treat you like Robert Bork, like Ted Cruz, like Donald Trump, even if you nominate a Susan Collins, if you nominate a John McCain, okay? They will do that.
Right.
So you may as well get your best nominee, which I'm still concerned that because Democrats were so petulant and so rude, that we're going to be only focused on their reaction as if our guy is like, you know, everything we want based on their reaction being so visceral. But in reality, he's kind of...
Yeah, but it wasn't just the people on the committee. It wasn't just Democrats. The media's doing this, and sort of even people in the gallery. I mean, let's remove Code Pink. Code Pink did what they did. They're going to do what they're going to do. But, I mean, we even had, in one of the big stories I wanted to touch on, and I kind of want to just jump right into this. I want this to be more informal, where we just kind of bounce back and forth. But, I mean, you had one of the Parkland kids' fathers try and come up to Judge Kavanaugh after the first break, shake his hand. I mean, the media was right there. They got the photo op. It was obvious that it was pre-planned.
And he announced it on Twitter that he was going to do that. So it was clearly pre-planned.
Right. And so it wasn't just him sort of deciding to do it or him not telling anyone, but it was pre-planned. He announced it on Twitter. No way Kavanaugh really knows about it, but he steps in, goes to shake Kavanaugh's hand. Kavanaugh kind of looks at him. I'm sure he allegedly said something. I'm sure he said what he said in terms of saying, I'm so-and-so. I'm a Parkland shooting victim.
Who knows what he heard? He could have just heard the word murder.
And that's my point. I don't want to be an apologist here for Kavanaugh, outside of the fact that I don't care who it was. You're in the most important moment of your life as a judge. There's nothing more intense.
Whether you're Kagan, whether you're Ginsburg, whether you're Scalia, whether you're Kavanaugh. When you're in a confirmation hearing, you don't have a random person when there's people are saying he got death threats and everything. I mean, you got to be very careful. It's very volatile. There's how many screamers were in there that had to be removed? Over a dozen? Who knows? I mean,
and that's what this story doesn't detail is you're in here, people are screaming. Like, I've got headphones on. You've got earbuds in. The reason we do that is we isolate our voice and your voice so that the sounds around us aren't distracting us. And that's important. He doesn't have that. He's in this room. It's hot. There's lots of people. There's chatter. The second they call for break and they stand up, there's people, in his face. He's looking for his aides to go, okay, where do I go? I mean, you think these people know what's going on, but they don't. They literally are like, okay, I need to get to the bathroom. I need to get food. I have X amount of minutes. I need to make sure, like, I got blindsided by this question. Again, not trying to be an apologist here, but at the same time, like, it's clear what the media and the press and the left and everybody's trying to do here.
Disturbing. It's more disturbing than that. I'm looking right now. I'm trying to find on my computer and I can't. I just realized it wouldn't be in Durbin's prepared remarks because this part wasn't prepared. But Durbin downright said something very disturbing. I don't have the exact quote, but he basically said, "Hey, this is democracy. This is awesome. Other countries, they'll get killed for doing this." And that right away was very disturbing because before I was tweeting out, before Durbin even spoke, I said, to me, this would have been a great opportunity for Democrats all along to get up there and say, look, this garbage has got to stop. Call upon their supporters, and that's who they are, their supporters, to stop it, because they're not going to listen to the Republicans. And they literally couldn't get a word in edgewise anytime a Republican spoke, and they wouldn't do anything. They never said it. And then Durbin downright praised them, and I was like, that right there really disturbed me, because it gets into this whole get in their face thing. You and I believe in robust debate, but there's appropriate times for it. You have the right to sit there quietly and attend, or you have the right to rabble-rouse outside. You don't have the right in this country to disturb proceedings, to disturb hearings.
Right.
Now, yeah, we're not going to kill you for it. We're not really going to give you jail time for it.
Right, but like what you're saying is at some point, it's not just, it was clear what was going to happen today. The Women's March, Code Pink, all these people tweeted ahead of time. They signaled ahead of time what was happening, what was going to happen, and it happened. And it's because this is political theater. I had...
you ever seen a Democrat event, whether it's an acceptance speech at the DNC, whether it's on a campaign trail, whether it's every State of the Union address, every major Republican speech has this. Does this ever happen to the other side? Do you ever see people associated with the right doing this? Because I don't remember it.
No, and of course not. But this is an interesting point, and you bring this up, and I bring this up a lot about how the left doesn't play by the same rules as the right does. And this is actually, in not to sound like a broken record from 10 years ago to 2 years ago, but this is one of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. You make the other side play by the rules, because there's too many rules and they can never play by them all. And when they realize that they've broken one of their own rules, they're going to stop and they're going to hedge and they're not going to keep going because they know that they're caught in a double standard. Where you, as a radical, the whole point of that is you don't have to play by the rules. You're not even supposed to play by the rules because that's not part of what you're doing. You're trying to disrupt the mainstream. You're trying to disrupt everything that is the status quo. And so, that's where they keep going. Here, and so when you flip that in the inverse, when you're not made to play by the rules, you can break any of the rules. And you saw that today. You saw that with Code Pink. You saw that with the Democratic senators. I mean, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris got up there from California and she started saying stuff and it was like, wait, what are you talking about? It was clear that she had no idea how to tie in what she was saying to anything except her own grandstanding. Just a program note, it looks like we lost Daniel. We're trying to set this up and there's some technical things that we're trying to work through here. And right as we started, Daniel was having a lot of problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up for tonight. I really want to direct you all to one of his pieces on Conservative Review. We have it up on Twitter. He has it on his Twitter, @RMConservative. That's Daniel's. I'm going to put it up here. It was on the screen earlier. Make sure you follow him. But read the questions that he believes we should ask every single justice that's a nominee to the Supreme Court. And the reason that he has those, it was originally for Judge Gorsuch, but it applies to everyone who's nominated to the Supreme Court, whether it's now or it's in the future. And these are questions that go not only to like how they're going to rule on certain cases or certain controversies, but their judicial philosophy at a deeper level, what it means to be a Supreme Court justice. We had a video at CRTV today from Senator Mike Lee talking to Matt Kibbe about the proper role of a justice on the Supreme Court. Well, these questions that Daniel wrote about talk about whether or not that person who's sitting in front of a Senate hearing committee and is sitting before the American public, whether or not those people or that person can answer those questions and has a judicial philosophy and can play the role and be in the role as a justice on the Supreme Court according to the Constitution. Because we've seen in modern times, both on the left and the right, that judges seem to be a catch-all. They seem to be a panacea. They seem to be the answer to all of our ills in the Republic, and they're not, and they weren't meant to be. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're going to do more of these. Hopefully, they're going to be a little more technically tight. Tonight obviously had its issues, but in the future, we hope that they're going to be a little better. And we're going to bring on lots of the CR staff. We're going to bring on special guests. It's going to be a more informal product. It's not going to be the tight-knit technical thing that you see at CRTV, but it's going to be sort of minute by minute, on the go, ready to go, just sort of live reactions to things, previews of things, and sort of the raw living room conversation. We're going to try and bring you politics in a more instantaneous and just sort of heartfelt sort of way, rather than the produced stuff, rather than the talking points. This is off the cuff, just sort of live and raw. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll watch again in the future.